Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I'm Amy Regan with Seesaw Art, and we are just getting connected with Tara Morin, who is joining us tonight for our artist talk. Excellent. I think this is her. We are just getting connected with Tara. Excellent. Welcome,
Hello.
welcome. Hi, everyone. Anne Marie is here, which is so exciting. Devin is here. Yay. We have a bunch of friends joining. Thank you
Amazing.
so much.
Hi, Chris. I see Chris is in.
Yes, definitely. Oh, this is so exciting. Thank you to everybody who's joining us today. I'm Amy Regan from Seesaw Art here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Hi, Daniela. Great to see you. We are in conversation tonight with Tara Morin, who is in our current exhibition entitled Despite Transitions. And we are going to be chatting about her work. Despite Transitions is on view until June 1st. And I'm just going to paste in the chat all the works of Tara's that are on view, and I will pin them so everybody can take a look. So thanks to everybody for joining. Now, Tara Morin was born in 1983 and is a collector, gatherer, and is configuring shape and color. Her practice began in childhood, hunting for fragments, the detritus of daily life. Bits of broken glass and plastic found on sidewalks, scraps from her mother's woodworking bin. In adulthood, Tara has continued variations of this practice. Now working primarily in painting, drawing, and sculpture, Tara produces visually complex images and objects that ask us to make sense of what we have left behind. And specifically in this great collection that we have on view, you can see a grid of them here behind me, then also this large piece, this other piece. Tara, I'll stop talking and give you a moment. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us from faraway Rockland, New Maine.
Yes. New Maine. I love that.
New Maine, yeah. Excellent. So tell us about this series of work when patrons come to visit Seesaw Art this month.
Yeah, so you're gonna see me look off to the side kind of frequently because I do have some notes, but um, I I was thinking about sort of the journey that both you and I went on together. I feel like in a lot of ways, deciding where the direction of the show was going to go, and I have to give you a lot of credit, Amy, because you were really open and flexible as I was sort of navigating uh, this landscape, which is kind of a funny pun, I guess, because these are sort of these post-apocalyptic landscapes. Um, so it sort of started, I think, very shortly after we first discussed the potential of working together. It was right around the time that the election happened.
Mhm.
And I think we actually postponed our first Zoom meeting because it was like the day after the election.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't.
And I was like, I'm not really in the headspace to talk about making things. Um, so I guess I would say that this show is a revisitation of a theme that I think comes up a lot in my work, which is um, the tension between opposites.
Mhm.
And in this case, I would say the opposites are death and play. And
Mm.
so I was thinking a lot about how does one continue to be playful during difficult times, and how play can be a form of resistance, and how play is really critical during times of grief or despair. Um, and so that was sort of what precipitated a lot of the work. I would say that on my mind, which I think has been on a lot of people's minds, thinking about like the what ifs and like where are we going, and
Mhm.
um, some people going so far as saying is the world coming to an end? Like what is actually happening? There's this sense of that we're on this sort of chaotic precipice, I guess. And so I kind of thought about this in terms of what would what did the world look like before us, and what could it potentially look like after us? And this form of a ruin came into play. And I would say that like a lot of artists, I have like a vocabulary of shapes that
Mm.
emerge in a lot of my paintings and drawings. But this seemed really distinct from a lot of the other shapes that are repeated in a lot of my
Wow.
painting and drawing work. And it seemed more activated and kind of animated, like it has this sort of steady presence. So it sort of simultaneously, it's like a sort of a biomorphic form that
Mm.
can be a stand-in for the human figure, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I sort of see it as being like prehistoric, futuristic, alive, dead. So like again, this like playing with the idea of opposites and how they can coexist in a space. Um, in terms of like the reiteration of that form over and over again, that's not something I typically do.
Mm.
So I sort of set about one doing that as a challenge to myself. I've been in this like I don't know, mindset lately of trying to like lean into discomfort and do things that I
Mm.
normally would say no to, or that I just are outside of the realm of my comfort zone. Doing an artist talk is one of those things. So,
Oh,
uh,
yeah, I know exactly.
yes, yes. So many people will know that I just did a Pechakucha or Pachakacha, depending on who you ask, in Rockland, and that was like a really big hurdle for me. So I said, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this and leaning into the discomfort because it's been really rewarding. But yeah, so the reiteration of the form has been a way for me to explore something over a long period, which I tend to be kind of frenetic in my practice. Like I'll work on
Mm.
something for a while and then go somewhere else, and I work in a lot of media at once. But additionally, I think it kind of ended up connecting to this sort of biomimicry thing that's happening in the work.
For sure.
And I thought of them kind of as the aliveness, that part of them, as kind of being this genus of
Mm.
creature. And then each one of these iterations as being like a species within that genus. So you
Oh, I
have
love
like the
that.
speckled ruin and the spotted ruin, and so
So
they
they're
each kind of have their unique traits and personalities, and maybe even like some supernatural kind of qualities to them. So yeah, that's kind of where I was
love that.
going with sort of repeating the form and seeing how many different ways I could imagine this particular form.
I love that deep dive into that idea. And I hadn't even thought of like the speckled ruin is like a particular um species within the ruin species. And there's
Mhm.
other of them and they don't all have to, I'm looking over there because that's where it's hung. Like they don't all have to be in that same shape, but they are all,
Mm,
which is really interesting to me. So, and they kind of seem like there's a lot of movement in the work, and you can
mm,
right behind me, there's a really gorgeous grid here of 9 of them. And I like that there's the cosmic ruin and the galactic ruin,
mhm.
blueberry ruin, of course. Like they're
Yep.
all like I just love that they are sort of named by either their color or their shape or their feeling. I hadn't really thought of it. I thought it would just be like the one individual, but that's great.
Mm.
I feel like just have like this whole world in many of them.
Yeah.
They
It
seem,
really is kind of an alternate
yeah.
universe, I think, that I'm trying to create. And
Hmm.
I am very interested. I'm also a miniaturist, so that's like another part of my practice that we can talk about if you
Yeah.
like. But um, I'm very interested in world building. So this idea of having control over the spaces that we exist in and imagining spaces we want to exist in,
Mm.
or don't want to exist in,
Yeah.
as sort of a point of warning, I guess, like a cautionary tale. Um, so I am really excited to see where this goes. And I think also working in different scales has been really
Mhm.
interesting to me. It's been a while since I've worked larger. I mean, 18 by 24 might not seem like that huge to somebody, but it's been a while since I've worked like larger than 5 by 7. So
Yeah.
it was a good challenge for me to do that. And I think the one piece, the Wounded Ruin piece, is like the one piece in the show that I think I hope that people kind of see that, and it creates a question mark for them about like, are these static
Mm.
objects, or are these alive in some way?
Yeah. Definitely, because that one has like one of the, for lack of a better term, like one of the arms is sort of cut off, and
Yeah.
to be like there's some blood pouring out of it and all over.
Hmm.
But it's a
Yeah,
really,
it's kind of gruesome.
it is gruesome. It's a joyful scene in the background. The moon is there, like there's a crescent moon and stars and some really beautiful colors. I,
Mm.
if for everyone who just joined a couple minutes ago, you can check out the link that I pinned and you can see images of all of these works that we're chatting about and really dive into them too. So the Wounded Ruin, like something happened.
Hmm.
how it got ruined or how it got wounded. That was a good slip. We don't know like sort of what the story is there, but there is that life force
Hmm.
inside the ruins, and they have their own sort of in they have their own inside worlds going on too. They're very
Definitely, yeah.
resonating with me today that they're like very dancey.
Mm.
They're like
Yeah, they're definitely like,
very,
yeah, they're activated, they're
yeah,
doing their thing, they're moving around, yeah.
definitely. But they
And I
also
do like that they look like
are,
they could just like pick up and kind
yeah,
of like I'm blanking on the name of the artist and I'm so embarrassed, but I'm sure many of you know the artist that does those amazing kinetic sculptures that walk across the beach.
yes,
I'm embarrassed that I'm forgetting his name. But that idea of the, you know, something that could continue to exist and move and have an existence independent of life is
yes,
sort of a wild thing. So, and an
definitely.
idea that I really connect with. So,
I love that. And another component to these that I've been thinking about is their ruins. And now that we've learned more that they are alive and they're moving, before I knew that, I was thinking of them as more static and sort of like what's left over after a building you know,
mhm,
isn't around anymore. And for me, it was a sign of hope, or it is a sign of hope that they're
mm,
standing up. They're not fallen down ruins. Like
mhm,
they're still the bones of that
yeah.
yeah, of that world, and we can kind of choose to take or leave what we want
Yeah.
to into the future with us. Like that's
Definitely, yeah. I think that's a great way to think about it. And I guess I should say, like, I'm also not super attached to the idea that they're like sentient beings, you know, that
mm,
they might just be like sort of prehistoric plant forms or you know, things
yeah.
that we can't even imagine. Because I do see them as being like made of stone and things that seem like
Hmm.
inanimate, but also having this life force. So I don't even know if they're alive or dead, frankly. It's just a question I'm asking.
I love that. I love that we don't know fully everything about the work that we're having on view, and we get to question it. We can still
Yeah,
dive into it, and it's not like a finality in a way.
definitely.
I think that's great. Oh,
Yes. Oh, my husband. Thank you, Paul. Theo Jansen, or Janssen, depending on how you pronounce it. That's the Dutch artist that I was referencing earlier. Thank you, Paul. He's always got my back.
that's great. And you have now joined the club of people whose partners will help them with the different
Oh,
artists.
we love
Find
that,
out
don't we? We need
first.
it. We need it. Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's great. Excellent. Yeah, so this work definitely is what I wanted to say was I love when I see a series that is a deep dive. You know,
Mm,
that's always my recommendation. It's probably just like the traditional curator or me, or I went to school for photography, so it's like at the end of the semester, wear your 12 photos on a theme. But I
mm,
feel like that helps you dive into it and you learn from the work. You created something that it was speaking to you from the beginning, but then sort of giving yourself that assignment and saying, I want
mm,
a collection. And it can be in multi-mediums as well.
mm.
So we
Yeah.
have smaller pieces. We have the 5x7 pieces here with this form. There's a larger piece that you were bringing up right behind me, which is super
Mm,
colorful and different. We also have some sculpture on view, which are
mm.
so beautiful. I'm gently holding these, but this is called
Yay.
right? This is called the Rainbow Ruin, which is a terracotta, and I think it's a cold finish, and you can
Yep,
tell.
cold finish. Yep.
So these I love because you can sort of you feel that structure. I love
Mm.
how linear this one is. I love the color choices that you made with this piece. It's
Thank
just so much
you.
fun to have so many different mediums on this idea and the theme. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm also a child of the 80s, so like
Ah,
I
yes.
cannot get away from the day glow neon. It is like,
Yeah. A guarantee for
yeah,
me to like love a painting is just like even if it's just like a tiny teeny little bit, like a little neon in
100%.
a
Yeah.
pencil, like that little square is like, oh, I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, it just draws you in and makes you feel good.
It definitely does.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the ceramics. So I do work in clay also, but again, most of my ceramic work is miniature.
Yeah.
So this was a departure for me. And I also have some limitations. So I guess to kind of connect to repeating the form, I don't usually set a lot of limitations on myself, and that could be really problematic, especially, excuse me, for someone that has a lot of diverse interests.
Yes.
So I think setting parameters for the form was helpful. So I gave myself a little bit more breadth in terms of the media that I was working with. So um, I
Mm.
did have some limitations in terms of scale because I usually work small. I have two small kilns. Um, Anyone that works with clay would know they're called doll kilns. They're literally to fire doll parts, basically. And they fire up to like cone one is to cone 6 and one is cone 8 for all the clay nerds out there. But I can usually fire a lot of work in them because, my pots are like this big.
Yeah.
So there was some limitations in terms of what I could fire, but I also saw those as test pieces for larger works. So I
Mm.
have some really amazing friends in the Seacoast. I used to live in the Seacoast, and one of my very good friends, Ned Roach, runs Chase's Garage, and they have an amazing ceramics program there. And so I'm going to be working, hopefully, with Ned over the next couple of months, making some larger works. So yeah, I am really exploring the sculptural side of things. That's not something that I typically do at a larger scale. So
Mm. Yeah.
yeah. And
Sure.
I like seeing the drawings and the paintings in 3 dimensions. Like that's sort of how I see them as 3 dimensional drawings. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So that sculpture is calling to you into making these pieces. Yeah, this one,
definitely. Yeah.
and then this one I feel like is from your catalog. These guys, which are
Yes, the little babies.
they're so tiny and so fun.
So the wild thing about that is that those reemerged recently, and they're actually from 2023. And so this happens to me very frequently where I'm like, I don't know if I see like
Mm.
connections sometimes between my work, and my friends are always like, Tara, get a life. Like seriously, like I could pick your work out of a crowd, but I don't see it.
A
But
lot
then
of artists feel like that.
yeah, this happens and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like literally a miniature ruin that I made 2 years ago.
It's
So
wild, right?
something, yeah, it's so wild. So I was like, well, definitely these need to be included because they're kind of like these little like keystone
Mm.
pieces that I didn't even know I was making. So
That's a really fun like history part where you're like, wow, it fits so well. Like there's certain lines in them, and we have another
mm,
piece like this on view as well. That it's like, yep, that's them. It
yep.
reminds it looks like an elephant trunk. And
Elephant foot.
yeah,
Yes.
elephant
Yeah,
foot
it's
are.
got elephant vibes for
They're
sure.
really
The
cool.
wrinkly skin
Yeah,
and yeah. So
they
again,
are.
it's like, is it coral? Is it alive? Does it have skin? Like, what is
Yeah,
happening?
like is it
Yeah.
moving? Is it not moving? Yeah,
hmm
questions there.
I
Uh,
have those questions too. I think that's like one thing that's maybe kind of freeing about doing an artist talk is that if you give yourself permission to admit to yourself and to whoever you're talking with that you don't have the answers, but that it's about sort of like the exploration of trying to find out what the answer is, I think it's less scary.
For sure. And like
Yeah.
me, I'll put together a show and I'll be like, okay, this will be a fun conversation. And
hmm
then like the second to last day of the show, I'll be like, oh, that's what this is about. Like I have
Mm,
like, okay, I think that this is what it is. And then
yeah.
month I deep dive into the work, I learn about the artists, I chat with them, chat with patrons, and then typically by the end of the month I'm like, oh, now I know.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah. It's a journey for sure.
is not usually where I come out of, and I
hmm
try to leave a lot of space for that. And that's why I always like call the exhibitions like conversations between artists, and it's and artists who are just meeting each other for the first time too a lot of the times. So it's kind of like all a big experiment. So it's really
Yeah.
fun getting into that, definitely.
So much fun.
Another medium that we have are some really lovely drawings, which I am like so obsessed with. These are so cool. What I wanted to say earlier is that it reminds me a lot of coral when I'm
Mm,
the ruin. And I feel like coral, I just picture it like from scuba diving in Puerto Rico. It was like another world when I was
hmm
like diving, or not scuba diving. Let's not give myself enough credit. I was doing some snorkeling.
Call it what you will.
Day, I was like, this feels like space underneath
hmm
the ocean. And like it kind of started to freak me out a little bit because I was like, wait, I've been doing this like for 4 hours or whatever. And like where is like my terrestrial being?
hmm
But I feel like
Yeah.
it was really, really quickly. in ideal conditions, we know it's not going so hot for a lot of coral right now, but I can just
Right.
feel it sort of like getting ground and then going. So I see that
Hmm.
a lot, specifically with these really cool drawings that you sent down. They seem very free. The
Mm,
colors really, really beautiful. And they're so vibrant and they're confident to me, just like your work is. Like the paintings just have this like, yes, I'm going to make this completely red and I'm going to make it like it doesn't seem to me that like once you know you're going to make the work, the confidence is there, even if you're
mm,
figuring it out. And I really see that in these drawings too. And I know it was a component to you to make sure to have some work that was easily to sort of get right into the collector's houses,
hmm.
whether being it buy and take like these drawings are, but then also really approachable price points. So
Yeah.
that I'm always excited to have something that something can resonate with someone and they can go home right with it. And I decided yesterday that anybody who purchases a drawing, I'll pop it in the mail for free for you because they're so small.
Oh, cute.
So anyone who wants one, please, buy one, send me your address, and I'll get it out the next
Oh,
day
thanks, Amy. That's
right
lovely.
before even the show is over, which is just such a fun thing. They're so tiny and small. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure to show these as well because it's a different medium, but it's that
Mm,
idea,
hmm.
different chances being taken here. And they're original drawings, which is just like the coolest thing to have.
Well, it's first of all, I'm so flattered that you think my work is so confident.
I think it is. It's like, yes, this line. There's no like, maybe there's no sketching.
You know,
I can see
yeah,
anyway.
there's very little sketching in my reality. I do just commit. I guess I do. I guess I commit. I think that that is a beautiful lesson that I learned from teaching children.
So fun.
I worked in public education for 8 years. Before that, I was a teaching artist in Chicago. And then I moved back home to Maine and worked in the school system for 8 years. And yeah, I actually took notes sometimes when I was like observing how the kids would draw and interact with the materials because there is
Wow.
so much that we unlearn as adults. And I do think that that kind of like visceral intuition that children have about what is the mark to make and just committing to it is I don't know that I so intentionally realized that, but I think it
Mhm.
is definitely something that I learned or relearned
Right.
as an adult artist from observing my students. Yeah.
Where it's not something like maybe this is the right choice. It's like this is the right choice. I have the
Hmm.
marker, I have the pen. Like, what am I going to capitulate about? I'm just going to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also
Really?
when you're making a ton of them, it's like if it's the wrong choice, so what?
Right?
You
Yeah.
know, make another one and another one and another one and another one and keep making them. So I do love working on paper. I hate framing work. I'm just going to come out and say that. So
I
I pretty much only
think
work
as soon as
small
you
on
frame,
paper.
the frame gets a little dinged, or there's this a little. I
It's
don't know.
just,
Talking
yeah,
like
it's just a thing. Yeah. But I do love working on paper for sure because you get different effects and you get different like
yeah.
opacities of color and depth. And also I just love a lot of drawing media that really you can kind of get away with it a little bit sometimes on a panel, but there's certain things that just don't activate the way that they do with a nice piece of Bristol or a nice piece of cold pressed watercolor paper. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so glad to have many multi-mediums on view. So, I want to talk a little bit about the miniatures. I know they're a little off topic, but I know they're hugely important to you and to your practice.
Yeah.
So, like, what do your miniatures look like, and sort of what inspires you to do those?
That's a great question. So I don't know that I could answer all those questions in the time that we have. So I'm gonna try to like hone in on one thing.
Nice.
So that I think is connected to the show, which is the miniatures to me are really a form, like I said earlier, a form of world building. So this idea that you can have control over your environment is something that's really important to me. It's also just important to my mental health to have this sense of control
Mm.
sometimes over, even if it's in an artificial way, it still feels reassuring, I
Yeah, you can
guess.
learn that you're working on this diorama in this
Yeah,
floor. It's like sort of always going on.
absolutely. So I do think that that's part of it. Um, in terms of how it's related to the work, that's at play right now in this show, I do think that I came out of making this work pretty confident that the next step would be to create dioramas, or peephole
Oh,
dioramas is what I'm
yeah,
thinking. So you're looking into a space that's lit, like multi-directionally
yeah.
lit, where these ruins exist inside that space.
Mm.
Um, I also I'm really excited by video and sound, and I would like to be able to use my dioramas as sort of like sets for video. Um, I actually graduated with a degree in graphic design and new media like a bazillion years ago. Um, yeah, so I need to like get back into that.
Yeah.
But I do think that that could be a really interesting way to push this concept even further, and to allow people to enter that world in an even more intimate and, I don't know, engaging way. So,
Yeah. And
um,
tell the
but yeah,
story.
miniatures are just the best. Everyone
Yeah.
should make small things. And also it makes things achievable. So I
Hmm.
will say that probably the biggest takeaway from the talk that I gave recently at the Strand here in Rockland for the Pechakucha slash Pachakacha. People, they're like, their feelings about that. So
To make up a lot of situation.
I'm like, I'm just covering all my bases, okay? Um,
Love that.
but I think the biggest takeaway for me, because actually teach miniature making to youth and to adults, and specifically in the context of making miniature galleries and museums, I think it's a really great way to teach curation, especially to
Mm.
kids. And this idea, I just was at the Oceanside High School for Career Day, and the students that came, we all made miniature work, and then we talked about coming up with a theme and how does one decide what work gets chosen and what work doesn't, and like the context of
Mm.
that. And then they worked collaboratively to install this miniature show, and I was like, that is probably the most effective way that I could tell you what happens in a museum or in a art center. I work at the Center for Maine Contemporary Art, so that was why I was there talking to them about the different aspects of that particular institution and what work is done there. But yeah, so it's a great way to build worlds. It's a great way to teach certain things. Um, but it's also just I don't know. I mean, it's a form of escapism, which I think sometimes people critique, referencing that about it. But it is a way to sort of like be quiet and heal, which I think is also a positive therapeutic part of art making as well. Um, yeah,
Definitely.
it's a multifaceted practice, I would say. And my current challenge is trying to be more receptive to my inclination to use it in my fine art practice. I've
Mm.
often thought of them as being kind of
Yeah.
separate entities. And I think largely due to some really amazing work that's being produced by some emerging artists. Miniature work and tiny work is
Mm.
getting a lot more traction, and there's more visibility for it, I think, in the contemporary art world. I think for a long time there's been a lot of pressure to make really big work. And I think it's sort of like this amazing kind of like rebuttal to that, to say, no, actually, I want closeness. I want
Mm.
intimacy with the viewer. I want people to have to come near.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very different relationship that you have to the work when it's small. So my hope is to lean into that in the coming year, and to trust my instincts and to use the miniature work in conjunction with my like fine art practice, and have those two things really become intermarried. So
I love that. We like big,
yeah,
right? But like you have to have all
yeah,
the answer, you know? Like you
yeah. I mean, that's
don't
a whole other point, is like accessibility.
so
I
like being
mean,
able to pack up your show and send it in a box to wherever it's gonna go for cheap is
oh,
like so
definitely.
liberating.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's the practicality of it, which also like um I think another question you had sent me was about about studio space, right? And so I've had shared studio spaces. I've had spaces in community centers. I've had a space at Lincoln Street. I used to have a space at Chase's, my friend's place, and I love working in community and having that connection. And when you move home, I moved home right prior to the pandemic. I had to sort of like really downsize my practice, and so there are some practical limitations that result from that. But also, again, about rules and parameters, right? It kind of forces you to be creative sometimes when you have this you set the structure up for yourself. It's like I can only work in clay at this scale, and I can only,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know. I just think that it can be kind of a healthy exercise to have some limitations.
Definitely, because it helps stretch your creative process that way.
Mm.
Last September or 2 Septembers ago, I don't know, one September at Seesaw Art History, I exhibited Carla Giardino, who is
Mm.
here in New Hampshire, and she does miniatures, and she'll do I don't know, it's probably like 10 inches by 12 inches, and she
Mm.
did a series on hoarders, and she
Oh,
did
amazing.
like vintage kitchens. If you check out the website, you can
Oh,
check
I
too
will
many photos.
definitely check it out.
Oh my God, like, help myself taking photos of this work.
Oh
But
my
one
God, amazing.
did is she did like kind of like yourself, she did like a miniature kitchen. And what I loved about it is when I was looking at the work, taking photos and getting it ready for the show, I realized that the tabletop was a button flipped over.
Oh, wow.
And it's like that is so creative to me
Mm.
that you're thinking about what are these things that will work like in
Oh,
this.
definitely. Yeah.
You're always probably like you're a collector, right? That was like the first thing that we learned about you and your art.
Hmm.
So to have all of those like creative ideas, yeah, to be able to make the miniature work is so fun for me. I was like, oh my goodness. And it was like, a button from here, like the small button
Mm.
collar, like the tiny
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so
Everything is a thing. That's what I
yeah,
always say. Like, I mean, if you're someone that, I like to use the word collector and not hoarder, because I think that, like, but
me too.
it does, you do see potential like in everything, which can be amazing and dangerous sometimes.
Definitely.
Um, I mean, when I was a little girl, that part of my artist statement, I had a mayonnaise jar that sat out on our patio in Escondido Village. We lived in student housing at that time, so my dad was in school, and I used to walk around. There was like a playground in the inner part of the structure, and I would just pick up plastic, buttons, screws, like anything that was just junk, basically, and I'd kind of like turn it around in the jar, and it was treasure to me. And
Oh,
so I think I'm
yeah.
still doing that. If you can see behind me, like right here,
I was
I
gonna
have
collections.
this is like a very curated part of my studio because you can't see the floor, which is chaos because I just throw things on the floor when I'm working. But um, I have so many of these drawers, and they
Oh, that's so great. I'm not sure if it's me or you, but you just cut out a little bit. I can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. There was a notification that popped up that I
Oh,
was making hand gestures.
I got the same thing too, and it's like, leave us alone. Come
I
on,
know. Be nice.
this and we don't want to do that. We don't want.
Yeah, I'm just pointing.
Yeah, that's so funny. So you sort of have all of these different collections that you're pulling from, and what a joy
Hmm.
when you realize, like, I have the perfect thing for what I'm trying
Hmm.
to make.
Yes, definitely.
I
Absolutely.
love that,
It
definitely.
feels like a win.
For sure. And it's very validating too, you know? It's like, okay, I have all these things and I know that I'm going to be using them in something sometime. Um,
Yeah. They'll
gestation.
come together. They'll find their new um incarnation.
Def-
Reincarnation in art. Yeah, I love that.
So do you think like what's coming up next for you? You were thinking about maybe some video or some sound involved in the ruins, but do you have
Yeah,
any exhibitions coming up or anything that, that we can support you on?
I do. So I'll just tell you, there's kind of a smattering, if you will.
That's great.
So I'm also currently in a show at Waterfall Arts. It's a group show that was curated by Barbara Sullivan, the Barbara Sullivan. She's
The
amazing.
Barcelona.
The Barbara Sullivan. We love Barbara. It's a really beautiful show. If you haven't seen it, please go and see it. It feels like a conversation between friends. It really is
Oh, that's
lovely. It's all people Barbara knows and has connection
yeah.
with. So
What are
highly
you
recommend that. And some of my
in
miniature work is in there. And it's
miniature?
actually a very special piece that I made for a friend that we lost in 2020. So it's a very personal piece for me.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you seeing the show for all the beautiful work that's in there. But if you're interested in my miniature work, you can see it there.
Excellent.
So that's currently on view. I do have another ruin on view at Bowie Gallery, which I think the Art PM show is wrapping up this
Yeah.
week.
I was there
Like,
Friday and I took a picture of
oh,
it.
yay, awesome, amazing. So there's one living over there. And so you can still see that. That's a gorgeous show. If you've never been to RPM, it's like so delightful. And it is to me what is the best parts of community art shows and coming together to create something really unique and special.
For sure.
I am going to participate in a group show at Bartlett Woods, which is a retirement community that I teach at, which is like so lovely. They asked me to participate in a show there, so I'll be contributing some work to that. I have another group show coming up in June at Waterfall, which is to commemorate their 25th anniversary. And that show, I'm making a large collection of head rattles, is the only way I can kind of describe them. They're um, human rattles. And it'll be an interactive, I'll just say this, it'll be an interactive piece that the community can engage with. There will be a sand pit
Oh,
involved.
yeah. Stand it. Everybody is sold as soon as
just
they
keep
hear.
it, just keep it interesting. And then I have there's another group show I'm going to participate in at the end of the summer at Page Gallery, which will be a multi miniature work, but in multiples. And then I also like to participate when I have the opportunity in community art fundraisers, things that contribute back to the community.
Mm.
I'm also a community artist. Like I said, I work for CMCA. I'm the adult programs and creative aging coordinator. That is my new title, actually. So um, I'm really passionate about creating opportunities and living into community and all of that. So there's an AIO, which is the food pantry that is local to us. They do a wonderful auction every year of bowls and plates. And artists work collaboratively with them to produce these customized pieces.
Oh,
And
wow.
those will go on auction, I think typically early fall, end of summer, early fall. And then the Camden Public Library, I'll also be making a piece for a fundraiser for them. So I have a lot to do
Wow. Yeah.
in the next couple of months, but it's all great. Oh, and the one last thing I have to give a little bit of a shout out for this. This weekend at Waterfall Arts on Sunday at 2 p.m. I think the lineup is 145 if you're participating. We're having a miniature parade.
Oh, come on.
Yes. And so Bridget, who is the art educator there, is the brainchild. She's like has the
Cool.
brainchild situation with this whole thing, but she is basically, I think it's inspired by it's called T-Rex. It's like a miniature parade that's in New Orleans that's kind of in response, I think, to the commercialization of the larger parade. So they're
Yeah.
these custom art pieces and I 100% was like, I have to participate in that. So I actually, as soon as this call's over, I will be working on my float.
Do you know the size of it yet?
It's you could actually, if you want to see, I'm gonna document it in my reels.
Awesome. Great.
I found a child-sized hot dog cart, which at the thrift store, which is full of plastic food, which is actually also convenient because it goes
Ah,
with
I
my
love
theme. So this will be reimagined into something very silly in the next couple of days, but
oh, my goodness. That's amazing. That's great. So is Instagram the best way to follow along?
definitely. I'm definitely most active on Instagram. I, like many artists, I'm always like working on my website. I did have a static website for many years, and I just found it was hard for me to keep up with
Yeah.
putting new work on there. So I really lean into that. I wish, I'm open to other, if people want to like put in the comments other things that they're trying. I would love to get out of the metasphere if I could, but it does seem like it's very much part of the reality of being a creative right now. So it's tricky. But yeah, that's the best place to find me for now. I am stay tuned because I'm thinking about doing. I love to write as well, so I'm thinking about doing some kind of like Substack or some sort of newsletter for people if they're interested in what I'm working on. So
Great. Yeah, we
yeah.
definitely will. So, it's tough to stay in the arts even when you're busy.
Hmm.
A ton of stuff going on makes it even tougher. What fills your cup and what helps you keep showing up and coming back to art?
Such a good and big question, right?
No pressure.
So I thought about this question. First of all, I love that you also gave the questions in advance. I don't know that I would have been able to do this without that because I would have been too nervous. But
I don't know
um,
what questions are, so I'm like, okay.
yeah, it's just like at least let me think through it. So that was helpful. Thank you. I kind of thought about that question in two parts. So like, what does it mean to be in the arts as an artist, and what does it mean to just be in the arts as like a broader
Yeah.
category because I think I've had a lot of different roles as both an educator, working in some admin, working in a lot of different capacities in the arts. And so I would say that as an artist, I don't actually even know that it's a choice. I mean, I know
Mhm.
that's probably kind of cliche to say, but like I do really feel um driven and compelled to make things. And when I don't follow that thread, I'm not the best version of myself.
Mhm.
So I do think that it's something that is just very ingrained in the way that I exist in the world.
Yeah.
Um, as far as being part of an art community and being an art educator,
Mm.
I deeply I don't even know if I can say I feel or I believe. I feel that I know that making art is one of the things that makes us both human and empathic, and then
Mm.
it's really central to our survival, um, in a very real way.
Mhm.
And so my sort of, I guess, mission as an art educator is to just try to create more and more spaces for people to exist in community with together while engaging with creativity and creative practice. And especially the work that I've started in the last year, in creative aging, there's some really amazing research coming out about the impact that it has on the brain, and on longevity. I think that people that have an art practice or creative practice have a 7-year longer life expectancy than people that don't. And so there's actually some real statistical evidence that's coming out that's supporting what we already knew as artists. I mean, you think
Right.
about some of
Yeah.
the most vibrant, healthy people that you know are artists, right? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
thinking in particular about this woman at Bartlett Woods. She's an amazing artist. She's in her 90s, and she's she's just completely amazing and fabulous. And I hope, gosh, if I'm lucky enough to live that to that point in my life and to be continuing to make work into my 90s, what a gift that is. So um, I feel like it's really part of my reason for being here is to try to like wrap my head around ways that I can create those spaces for others and participate in them because I need them too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've sort
They
of
inform
realized
each
is that
other.
I'm making the spaces I need also selfishly for myself. I've like created the community that I always kind of wished that I had through this programming. So um that doesn't feel hard. It feels necessary,
Mhm.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like they will inform each other. You know,
definitely.
spaces, my own curation came out of the fact that there wasn't a ton of approachable gallery spaces in New Hampshire when I graduated.
Hmm.
So it was like,
Yeah,
I have to make some, you know,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
to see that impact and to be able to now go to an end of year show or meet
Hmm.
someone anywhere and say like, hey, I have a space and I would love to work with you. Um,
Definitely.
that is something that wasn't happening when I was younger. So to be able
Yeah.
to give that is
Yeah,
my,
looking for those
you
openings and
know,
looking for those gaps. Um, I should also say, the actual desire to like engage with the art world and your art community, that isn't hard. Certainly what you're describing, there are very real considerations and challenges to being a creative person. And unfortunately, society as it's currently set up is not set up to help creatives succeed. And so we have to be
yeah.
we have to sort of be the activators of those new spaces. And
Mhm.
it's a challenge. It's a worthy challenge, I think. And it's exciting because it's like, again, it's world building, right?
Mhm.
It's creating the world that you want to live in.
Yes, and
And doing that at a local level is probably a
yeah,
good place to start.
and seeing sort of what comes out of that. And I think about that
Mhm.
with each show. You know, I'll make a new friend, or someone will become a new buyer, or I'll make a
Mhm.
connection or something. Something exciting will happen during each show. And like that's what keeps me going is
Absolutely.
seeing
Yeah.
where the story goes after the art has been collected for a short amount of time here in the gallery. And I'm so lucky to be able to have the gallery space and to invite people in to do that. It's very fun. Fun
Well,
thing.
you are doing a great service. I know I will sing your praises till the cows come home, but um, I really have to give you a lot of credit, Amy, because you have created a really unique space and also not just the physical space, but also the sort of psychic space, I guess, for artists
Nice.
to have some freedom to explore something that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise.
I love
And it can lead to some really exciting things. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I had some artists reach earlier this year and saying like, "Hey, we have this idea. We know we want it to be at Seesaw, so whenever you're open and ready to do it." And they were sort of chatting amongst themselves. And I said, "Well, if Seesaw doesn't want to do it, I don't know if it can exist anywhere else." And I was like, "Well,
Mm,
that is a compliment." And twofold because they're thinking that the space is approachable and available for them
hmm
to make this
Yeah.
hyper Manchester show, which is what
Mm,
in
yeah.
November, it'll be George Vossler and Pete and Keith, and I'm blanking on their last names right now. But
hmm
like TBD, it will be coming. But
Yeah.
also because they know the space will represent the work really well too, which I
Yeah.
feel. But just
Definitely.
the idea that it's out there is very
hmm
cool because it's not, a lot of the times either the gallery isn't reaching out to artists or like, send me an email and like we'll get a show going together somehow. Um,
hmm
it's really fun for me to figure out how to take all that lovely energy and make sure that it goes somewhere where it's appreciated
Yes.
and the art can be seen. So that's a really fun thing. As we're wrapping up here, if anybody has any questions for Tara, please pop them in the chat. The exhibition is on until June 1st. We just opened on Saturday. We had a lovely time. It was so lovely and special to have you and friends in the gallery, Tara. Is not light on me that you drove down from Rockland.
Of course. Wouldn't miss it.
Yes, yeah. Oh, good. My partner is helping me. It's George Fossler, Pete Morse, and Keith Ford, who will be in On View in November with a very cool, very punk DIY art show. Like there's
Oh,
going to be
amazing.
TVs that don't work that are plugged in and like all kinds of wild stuff. So
Yes. Awesome. Sounds great.
looking forward to that. So, yeah, excellent. Anybody who wants to come down, visit seesaw.gallery/visit to come in, see the works on view. It's a long month actually, so we've got 3 solid weekends that I will be here and hanging out with the artwork, and hopefully, and you who will come in. And then you can also check out everything online from wherever it is that you happen to be at seesaw.gallery. Like I said, those beautiful prints are $60 each, and I'll ship them for free to you so you can get them as soon as possible and enjoy Tara's work. But please do take a look online or come down and see me. And I just want to say thank you so much, Tara. It's been such a pleasure to work with
Oh,
you.
it's been delightful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.